Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're all doing good. Most of you might have found this brachial plexus difficult or confusing, right? So I'm going to explain you this in very simple way. Okay, firstly, what is brachial plexus? What is plexus? So plexus is nothing but it is a collection or a network of the nerves. So this brachial plexus is present in the brachium. So it supplies both of your arms along with some part of your pectoral region. Okay. So where is this arising from? It arises from the anterior primary rami of the spinal nerves C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. So what is this anterior primary rami? Imagine this is the transverse section of the spinal cord, and this is the gray matter, this is the white matter, and this is the posterior or dorsal side of the spinal cord, and this is the anterior or ventral side of the spinal cord. So this part being in the dorsal side, this is the dorsal horn, and this part being in the ventral side, this is the ventral horn. Okay, so a nerve arises from the dorsal horn and the ventral horn, which forms the spinal nerve. This is the spinal nerve. Okay, so this spinal nerve, it gives off into two through its course, which so this one being in the dorsal side, this becomes the posterior primary rami. So I think you understood what is anterior primary rami now, right? So this one being in the anterior side, what it becomes anterior primary rami. Okay, so this is the anterior primary rami. So as I previously told, the brachial plexus will arise from the anterior primary rami of the spinal nerves C5 to C8 and T1. Okay, so we have the roots and trunk, division, cord and branches. So these are the five components of the brachial plexus that you have to remember for sure, where the roots will form trunk and trunk will divide into divisions and divisions will join to form cord, and in the end cord will use of branches. Okay, so you can remember it as RTDCB. Okay, we have the roots C5, C6, C7, C8 and T1. So as I told, the roots will join to form what? Trunk, right? So the C5 and the C6 root will join to form upper trunk, and the C7 root alone it will form the middle trunk, and C8 and T1 root it joins to form lower trunk. Okay, so again I told that the trunk will divide into divisions, right? So each trunk, this upper, middle and lower, each trunk, now it will divide into two, which are the anterior and posterior divisions. Each trunk will divide into anterior and posterior division. Okay, so I think you understood till here correctly, right? As I told previously, the divisions will unite to form cords, right? So here, listen carefully. The anterior division of the upper trunk and the middle trunk will form lateral cord. Okay. So now the posterior divisions of the upper trunk, middle trunk and the lower trunk will form posterior cord. Okay. The anterior division of the lower trunk will alone form the medial cord. So this might be confusing, right? Once again, I'll tell you. The anterior division of the upper trunk and anterior division of the middle trunk will join to form lateral cord. And the posterior division of the upper trunk, posterior division of the middle trunk and posterior division of the lower trunk, it joins to form posterior cord. Now the anterior division of the lower trunk alone will form the medial cord. Okay. So there's another nerve which arises directly from the roots of C5, C6 and C7. I think you know this. This is the long thoracic nerve. This nerve supplies to the serratus anterior muscle. Okay. So there are other two nerves arising from the upper trunk, which is the suprascapular nerve and the nerve to subclavius. Okay. I hope you understood till here. So now we will see the root value of the each cord. Okay. So firstly the lateral cord. If you see carefully, the lateral cord is arising from the upper trunk and middle trunk, right? Like from the anterior division of the upper trunk and anterior division of the middle trunk. So this upper trunk is again coming from the C5 and C6. So if you take the root value of the lateral cord, firstly you will have to write C5 and C6 because it is coming from the C5 and C6. And if you see the next division, like in the middle trunk, again this lateral cord is also arising from the anterior division of the middle trunk. So the root value you should also add this C7. So now what is the root value of the lateral cord? It is C5, C6 and C7. Okay. Coming to the posterior cord. If you see carefully, this posterior cord is coming from all the trunks, right? So it is so easy to write the root value here because it is C5 to C8 and T1 as it is coming from all the trunks. So you can write the root value as C5 to C8 and T1. And one more thing, what is in the posterior cord, mostly we consider only C5 and C6 as the root value. Only in some exception cases there will be C5 to C8 and T1. Okay, we will see this in further. So next coming to the medial cord. If you can see the medial cord, it is arising from the lower trunk, like anterior division of the lower trunk. So this lower trunk is again coming from C8 and T1. So the medial cord root value will be C8 and T1. I hope you all understood this, right? So as I told previously, the cord will give off branches. So each cord will give off few branches. So what are those branches? We will see now. Firstly, we will see the mnemonics for these branches. Okay, how can you remember those branches? Firstly, the lateral cord. For the lateral cord, the mnemonic is LML. You will see in further slide what is LML. Okay. For posterior cord, it is ulnar. You can just remember this like your ulnar bone. Okay. It is not ulnar bone, but you can remember it that way. Medial cord gives off 5 branches, which is M4U. The lateral cord gives off 3 branches, LML. Posterior cord is giving again 5 branches, ULNAR. And medial cord is giving also 5 branches, M4U. So we'll see this further. So coming to the lateral cord. As I previously told, the root value for the lateral cord is C5, C6 and C7, right? And also the mnemonic I told was LML. So what is L? L is the lateral root of median nerve. M, it is the musculocutaneous nerve, and another L, it is lateral pectoral nerve. So these are the 3 branches which are arising from the lateral cord. Okay. The root value is same for all the nerves, C5, C6 and C7. So now coming to the medial cord. The root value is C8 and T1. As I previously told, it is C8 and T1. And also the mnemonic I told was M4U, right? You can also remember it like mum, okay? You can also remember it this way. So M stands for medial root of median nerve, another M stands for medial pectoral nerve and medial cutaneous nerve of arm, medial cutaneous nerve of forearm, and U stands for ulnar nerve. You all know this ulnar nerve, right? So medial root of median nerve, medial pectoral nerve, medial cutaneous nerve of arm, medial cutaneous nerve of forearm, and ulnar nerve. So you must have to remember these branches in order to write the brachial plexus in your exam. Okay. So these are the branches given off by the medial cord. Okay, and the root value is same for all the nerves C8 and T1. So now coming to the posterior cord. As I previously told, the posterior cord root value would be C5 and C6, but actually it is C5 to C8 and T1. And this C5 to C8 and T1 only is applicable to few nerves, not all the nerves of this posterior cord, right? This is applicable for radial nerve C5 to C8 and T1, okay? And it is also applicable for nerve to latissimus dorsi, which has the root value C6, C7 and C8. Okay, the root value C6, C7 and C8. These both are the exceptions. Remaining all the nerves have the root value C5 and C6. Okay, clear. So as I told, the mnemonic for the posterior cord is ulnar. You can see upper subscapular nerve, lower subscapular nerve, nerve to latissimus dorsi, and axillary nerve and radial nerve. So this is the posterior cord. I hope you all understood this well, and thank you. And if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. Okay, bye.